Hello, dear friends. Here we are, the Medium's Harvest. This is day 46. 46 chapters. Today's chapter 46 of a book written by the spirit author Emmanuel through the medium Chico Xavier. That was written in 1960, published in 1961 as a tribute to the centenary of the Medium's book by Allan Kardec. The Medium's book by Allan Kardec is considered to be the manual for mediums and evokers, as Kardec titled it. And for all of us, it's truly a textbook on mediumship. A textbook means it's a must for all those who really want to commit to seriously understanding about mediumship under the light of Spiritism, and also for those who would like to practice mediumship under the light of Spiritism in a safe and productive manner. And when we say productive, we don't mean financially productive. We mean productive in terms of the benefits generated to the general good, right? Today, the chapter is most special. After bringing to us the beauty of being a medium as the helper of the spiritual world, one that spontaneously helps, then Emmanuel brought to us how important it is not to abuse the spirits. We communicate with them with gentleness, with kindness, with compassion, knowing that they have feelings like we do. Oh yes, discarnate spirits feel just like us. They don't have a physical body, but emotions are not generated in our physical body. They are triggered in the physical body. They are physiologically manifested in the physical body, but not generated in the physical body. So we have been learning in many sessions with Emmanuel and Allan Kardec the beauty of these compassionate conversations. A conversation that has respect, reverence, that has kindness in it, and has openness to learn, to serve, and to love. Today, as we're going to study the concept of unity, union, chapter 46, let's read first and foremost the paragraph that opened in Emmanuel the inspiration to deepen the teachings and bringing to us a new training. Emmanuel relied upon dissertation number 20 in the Medium's book, chapter 31, which is Dissertations by Spirits. This one we're going to read is by Saint Vincent de Paul. Yes, the very one you know about. The charitable priest. And he said, through the mediums at Kardec's time, unity makes one strong. Be united in order to be strong. Spiritism has germinated. It has set down deep roots and is going to spread its beneficent boughs over the earth. You must become invulnerable to the poisoned darts of slander and the dark phalanx of ignorant, selfish, and hypocritical spirits. In order to do so, mutual tolerance and benevolence hold sway in your relationships. May your defects pass unnoticed, and only your good qualities be seen. May the flame of pure friendship unite, illumine, and warm your hearts. Then you'll be able to resist the powerful attacks of evil like the unshakable rock resists the crashing waves. I mean, if we just keep ourselves meditating on this message by Emmanuel, by Saint Vincent de Paul, publishing the Medium's book, we have enough food for a lot of transformation. The key word here, unity, union, depends on what he says, mutual tolerance and beneficence. Mutual tolerance and beneficence. Benevolence. Benevolence we already know. Benevolence is bene, good, volens, will. So goodwill. I need to have goodwill. So if somebody calls you and says, I'd like you to help with this project in our center or in our organization, etc. If it's going to generate the good, we need to be good-willed. I cannot turn people down on good works. Good works are good opportunities for us to transform ourselves. But before benevolence comes tolerance. So before we go to Emmanuel in the Medium's Harvest, let's call Emmanuel to talk about tolerance in the book Thought and Life. In chapter 25, Emmanuel tells us one of the main pillars of a successful reincarnation, tolerance. And he says, tolerance is the foundation of all true progress. Tolerance is not a superficial concept, but a living reflection of understanding, a purity of the soul. One day, a scientist that I respect much, social scientist, turned to me and said, Vanessa, tolerance is not as deep as we want it to be, because tolerance is just putting up with people, not in the Spiritist concept. In Spiritism, tolerance, says Emmanuel, is the living reflection of understanding. It conjures the feelings of hope, patience, and letting go of all evil. So understanding others, looking at people and saying, why do they behave like this? But I'm not going to give up on believing in the good in them just because we're different. We're living at a time of extreme intolerance in many ways, from governments to people, governments to other governments, and that is deterring our progress. Tolerance is about understanding, the living reflection of understanding. So what is understanding, Emmanuel says, to insist that others think as we do would be to demand that the world adapt itself to our whims. Our obligation is to adapt ourselves with dignity to the world, with the firm purpose of helping the world. To tolerate is to reflect brotherly understanding, and forgiveness is always a preventative measure that assures health and peace, renewal, and security wherever it may be. Now we are ready to go to Emmanuel's dissertation on the key word in mediumship, unity. I don't think a medium can do anything alone. Also because the medium is not alone. There are always spirits surrounding them. But most of all, in the material plane, we shall always practice mediumship together with other people. The real practice, okay? So it says here, chapter 46, Unity. This was written on a public meeting on June 24th, 1960. Based on chapter 31 of the Medium's book, dissertation number 20, Emmanuel then wrote the following through Chico Xavier. Be merciful and help so that you may serve in unity for the good. Were it not for the goodness of the farmer who shelters the dry seed, you would not receive the comfort of the bread on the table. Were it not for the work of the labor that sets brick by brick, you would not have security of the foundation of your own home. This happens in the simplest elements. Therefore, notice the attitude of life so that no one may avoid the community in order to progress. Life does not condemn the paralytic person because they don't know to walk. Life, instead, provides the paralytic person with a wheelchair. Life does not curse the sick eyes. Instead, life provides protective lenses for them. Life does not relegate the mutilated to fate. Instead, life provides mechanical resources to the mutilated. Life does not revolt against the ignorant who twist the guidelines. Instead, life turns on the light of the school. Life does not annihilate the insane who insults the laws. Instead, life generously hosts them in the intimacy of the psychiatric ward. Imitating the feeling of life, let us be for each other the crutch and the medicine whenever necessary. Let us forget the defects of the neighbor in the certainty that we are all under the hammer of the hours in the anvil of experience. Tolerance is the cement of the ideal unity, and only unity generates strength. However, there is strength and strength. Millions of drops unite and create the spring. Millions of sparks get together and form fire. Think a little, and you will understand that it is always very easy to unite to the interests of the earth and be united for the good of the strength, but only treasuring the qualities of the Christ in our own soul, we will then be able in truth to be united for the strength of the good. What a difference, huh? Yes, you're right. It is right. Many people get together to enforce things, and that's easy. But to be united to generate good is not so simple. We're still learning it, right? Sunshine, you read my mind, because we were going to deal with that very explanation. Sunshine is asking us, what would you say does Emmanuel exactly mean by life? Of course, only Emmanuel knows, but thinking and reflecting very deeply on this, when he says the attitude of life, he doesn't capitalize life. So we cannot say he's saying God directly, but we're talking about the concept that André Luiz explains in the book Evolution into Worlds. On the behind the scenes of the generation of life, there are many superior spirits sustaining this instinctive intelligence that is manifested in life. So we're going to say, in some way, it's the divine intelligence, we would say, that permeates people and things. Okay? It's the divine intelligence, I would say, in other ways. Reflecting very deeply. So imitating the feeling of life, of this divine intelligence that permeates everything, because we are spiritual beings, intelligent beings, as we all know. Imitating that, Emmanuel then says, let us be useful. Let us be the crutch and the medicine. The crutch and the medicine. Right? Makes sense, sunshine? Thank you for asking the question. So, no wonder he's asking us, let us be useful. Let us really be co-creators. And we would say in the words that Emmanuel wrote in the book Thought and Life, chapter 3, let us cooperate. And he uses the term very clearly. Cooperation, he says here, is key. So that's pretty much what he's telling us. Spontaneous cooperation is the supreme ingredient of order. Cooperation, cooperation, he says, means constructive collaboration in order to be able to face challenges and wholehearted help, so as to put deprivation behind us. That's what the Fraternity Without Borders does, right? Yes, giving life to many lives. By the way, I've got to know through a WhatsApp message by Dr. Ene Moreira that the Fraternity Without Borders has special medical expeditions coming up in February, if I'm not mistaken, and Angelita can correct me, please. And right now, they are accepting monetary donations to help them raise the funds to bring the necessary medicine that they need to Mozambique, Madagascar, etc. Okay? Go to fraternitywithoutborders.org, and if you can, make your contribution there. Okay? We're just passing the word so we can be cooperating. Let us be the crutch in the medicine. So, imagine if everywhere we go, we feel like being the support of people, the crutch, the medicine, the solution. Not the savior, but the support, the co-pilot. God is the savior. We're the co-pilots. We're supporting, right? So imagine how life would be transformed if people were less concerned about their personal needs and more devoted to dedicating to covering the needs of others. We would literally do what Emmanuel said, leave deprivation behind us. Leave deprivation behind us. Deprivation exists because we're constantly thinking about our own good. There are people, when they have free time, they only think about what they want to do, what is good for them. Instead, we should think when we have free time, now I have free time to help others. But in order to sustain ourselves being the crutch and the medicine, we needed to nourish ourselves first. So the question for us therapeutically tonight is, are we being tolerant with our own selves? Are we being tolerant with our own selves? Sometimes our physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, whatever, the integral health is falling apart because we're not tolerant with ourselves. We're splitted inside of us. We're conflicted. So before giving out tolerance, we need to have it for our own. Are you tolerant with yourself, friend? Are you? Do you have this living practice of understanding regarding yourself? Do you understand yourself enough to not to put up with you, but to really embrace you? We cannot give it to others if we don't give it to ourselves. What are your limits temporarily. What are they? What are the things that make you feel happy or sad? What are your most common emotions? What are your most common thoughts, fears, anguishes? If we don't understand ourselves, we won't be able to tolerate ourselves, and it's gonna be pretty much impossible to tolerate others. When we still are conflicted about ourselves, having mixed feelings, almost bittersweet. I love me today, tomorrow I hate myself because of this, that, and the other. I need to stop for a moment and practice inner tolerance. Inner tolerance. What is this inner tolerance? What is it? It's to give ourselves the nurturing that we need. And don't expect from somebody else. It's literally to learn how to give ourselves the affection that we need. Giving ourselves the embrace that we need. Thinking good of ourselves. One of the books that is a must one day to come in English is a book by Sueli Schubert, Obsession and Disobsession. Not yet in English. Very thin, very practical. And she brings to us a concept that is inevitable. Before any obsession is created in our lives, this negativity that comes from outside, we actually have this self-obsession. She coined the term self-obsession. You know, she borrowed it somewhat from Andrea Lewis. Self-obsession, what is it? It's when I think negatively about myself. 99.9% of the people on the earth do it. And the problem is that majority of people do it majority of the time. No wonder our lives are slow in our progress, because we do not approve of ourselves. We do not understand ourselves. We're constantly in that old conditioning of punishing ourselves. Inevitably, it's going to be hard to live with others. It's going to be hard to be in a team, to be in a group. To be in a group, I need first and foremost to understand me. Otherwise, I will be unconsciously projecting and doing a lot of what Freud called mechanisms of defense. And I'm going to complicate quite a lot my life in the community. And in this case, in a spiritist group. It's going to be hard. A majority of people do this. And no wonder majority of the wisest people on earth, they have worked in a team that is unified with them, but not necessarily in the traditional teams. Like Jesus. Jesus, though Hebrew, he did not work religiously with the Pharisees in the Jewish temple. Oh yeah, he was really against the odds. Why? Because he was against them? No. Because they were not understanding of themselves. They were intolerant. Being tolerant, they made life impossible, especially for a being of Jesus' order to really come and operate upon. So he had to work sideways. The same for Dalai Lama, who was expelled from his country. Thich Nhat Hanh, and many others, even Mother Teresa and many others. Because they were in a different level of awareness. They were already at a different level of tolerance because they understood themselves. They could understand others, but not necessarily the traditional organizations could accept them and understand them because they don't understand themselves. In Spiritism, we shouldn't be allowed to be intolerant. We shouldn't. I'm not going to say it should be a prohibition because that's intolerant in itself, but we should be advised, kindly, to quit all forms of intolerance and understand that there are different ways of explaining things. There are different ways of wrapping a gift, though the gift is the same. Different wrapping papers. In each culture, the spirits say, there will be a different way of bringing about Spiritism. I'll give an example. In Brazil, Spiritism is being embraced almost like a religion. And that's okay. In Europe, or even in the United States, but mostly Europe, if you do that, you're not going to go far. Even in Portugal. Because people see religiosity in a different way. And only if I understand the culture, the history, I'll be what we call in science culturally competent. And to be culturally competent, I really need to exercise understanding. Understanding. It's actually one of the things in the list of the pathway for intercultural learning. It requires awareness, acceptance, understanding, and adopting elements so I become multicultural. I cannot get even in a relationship with somebody without understanding where they came from. Many people have a hard time. They're in love, they get together, and when they meet each other's family, that's when the problems begin. Why? Because they are blinded by passion. They still don't understand themselves. They haven't understood the other one, so when they see part of that person in the family, they're like rejecting. So maturity calls us to give one step ahead and an opportunity to embrace. And Emmanuel begins this chapter by saying the key word, practicing mercy. Do you remember when Jesus was at the Mount and he said in his sermon, blessed are the merciful as well? We're in a society that doesn't know mercy yet. To be merciful is to forgive. And to forgive requires understanding. When people are sick, they do things that are nonsensical, unreasonable. They are sick. No wonder, I remember as a neuroscientist, and I'm going to share this with you because you can do your research too on this. You know, when we talk about the right and left hemispheres of the brain, now we know that the right and the left have specific roles in our perception, in our sense of being. And that was the byproduct of a research by the renowned scientist Michael Gazzaniga. I remember in 2009 watching a talk in person at the University of Maryland by Michael Gazzaniga. And he is studying something different nowadays. I mean, it's an extension of it. It's about neuroscience, understanding crimes and the minds of criminals under the light of neuroscience. And he said how our society is so paradoxical. Science pretends to be materialistic and assuring us, he said, that we are byproducts of our brains. But when it comes to our criminal justice, we see the opposite. A criminal comes, we judge, and we punish. But how can we punish a broken brain? And in a way, Spiritism would agree. We need to work, okay? To work on the spirit from a different angle. A brain that is sick, somebody who is an alcoholic, is considered to be mentally ill in our psychiatric studies. No, really, the National Institute of Mental Health considers alcoholics as mentally ill people. They have a mental disorder, which means they have a neurochemical imbalance. So I cannot expect people who are alcoholics or who are addicts to understand the world as we do and to quickly generate common sense, because the way they perceive the world is completely different. I cannot expect somebody who is depressed pathologically, who has schizophrenia, to understand what other people are saying necessarily. And I'm not discriminating mentally ill people, but just saying we need to understand them and give them an opportunity to be treated in their needs. So simply imprisoning people is not gonna help. So nowadays, even our criminal justice system knows that there are many mentally ill people in jail that should be in a hospital, but in the hospitals, our psychiatric treatments are failing us. They're based on pharmacological approaches and barely behavioral or psychological approaches. There isn't much about education there, but Spiritism will easily solve the problem. No wonder in Brazil we already have psychiatric hospitals that are combining the Spiritist approach to really work educationally with the souls. Okay? So, Emmanuel is telling us, be merciful. That's how he begins. So that you may serve in unity for the good. I mean, if we stop here, we're good. He said, if you want to participate in a mediumistic meeting and create a mediumistic group, practice mercy. Mercy, mercy, mercy. What is mercy? What is mercy? That's our homework. Mercy on us and others. This is our homework, friends. So we can really be united to do the good. I cannot do the good if I am not merciful. If I am quick at judging, if I am quick at sentencing people, if I'm quick at condemning, labeling, I am not good yet to participate in works of the nature. I won't be good at serving in a group. I need to be merciful. And mercy relies on tolerance. Read the Gospel According to Spiritism in the very chapter that talks about mercy. And it escaped the number from me. If you guys research there, you can please kindly write down here so we can have a reference, okay? In the Gospel According to Spiritism, tolerance is one of the features And tolerance depends on understanding. Right? Forgiveness. Tolerance, forgiveness are elements of the family of mercy. Do you like it? You feel good? Me too. Let me add one more element here. Again, when we read the book 2,000 years ago, 50 years later, Hail Christ, we're gonna see that before Christ, mercy was non-existent, the concept. Jesus was the one that brought to life the concept of mercy, of forgiveness, of tolerance. Until then, people would be sentenced, condemned in whatever way. No wonder in chapter 25 of this book, Thought in Life, talking about tolerance, Emmanuel then tells us quite beautifully that Christ offered us a pattern of ideal tolerance when he returned from the grave to encounter his discouraged students. He did not address Peter's abandonment. You see, somebody makes a mistake, and if I go there and I keep reminding them of their mistakes, that means I'm not being merciful. That means I am avenging them. Jesus did not do this. He did not address Judas' weakness to say that he forgave them, that he forgave him. Rather, Jesus spoke about the redemptive task ahead, thereby inducing them to resume their work in the field of goodness. So Jesus was the first to bring to us this concept. We are tonight invited to bring mercy in our lives. And since we here have an intercontinental classroom, if each one of us practice in the next 24 hours mercy with us and with others, we're going to generate this intercontinental network, stimulating vibratorily mercy around all of us. Shall we? Mercy, mercy, mercy. Tolerance and forgiveness. Tolerance is the cement of the ideal unity. And to understand, to tolerate is to understand. And as Emmanuel says, be merciful and help so that you may serve in the unity for the good. So for all of us, you are listening to the news. You hear the news saying there is a bomb cyclone coming to the world. May we pray that people be more merciful so our vibrations can break this coldness that is coming towards many. You know, it's a parallel to the coldness of our hearts on the earth. Right? Forgiveness gives us peace. Exactly, Paula. So let me say hi to the community here before we march towards the wrap-up of this chapter today. Shall we? Yes. Hello, Sunshine. Thank you so much for being with us and asking this question that generated great understanding. Adilson, how are you, my friend? Teresa Catapano, how are you? Rihanna and Nico, how are you? Carol and Mark Smith, big hug to you. Karina, Lissy, big hug to you. La Souza, how are you? Raquel Bakeshi, big hug to you. Léa Severo, a super hug to you. Patrícia Guiri Cardoso, a kiss to you. And Tiago, Narciso, my friend, light man, how are you? Teresa Castro, I hope you're warm, my friend, there in Vermont. Thank you for being with us. Silvio Otero, how are you? Angelita, beautiful Angelita. Bianca Braga, how are you, Bianca? Nora Brazil, how are you? Carmen Silveira, big hug of Happy New Year. Thank you, huh? Cesa, beautiful Cesa, how are you? Beautiful Paula, how are you? Big hug to you. And Tony, power couple, huh? John the Rose, how are you? My eternal friend. Dulce Story, big hug to you. Andrea Torres, what a joy to have you here, Andrea. Jussara, welcome and Happy New Year. How are you? Rudy, unity of presence here, the 11th hour Spiritist get together. Exactly, friends. So the message today is very clear. Let us practice mercy. But first, practice this understanding with ourselves, being tolerant with us. And then practice with others, understanding why do they do this. Let's not forget what Jesus said to Peter. Most often than not, people do things out of fear. Fragility, not evil. It's pure fear. Yeah. Fear to be themselves. Fear to do what they need to do. No wonder courage is one of the main trademarks of the follower of the good news, said Jesus to Bartholomew. Courage. We need to have the courage to be ourselves and the courage to accept ourselves so we can accept others. And Emmanuel tells us, think a little and you will understand that it is always very easy to unite to the interest of the earth and be united for the good of the strength. But only treasuring the qualities of the Christ in our own soul, we will be able, in reality, to be united for the strength of the good. Yet the good is very strong, but we can only be united at there when we have mercy inside of us, tolerance. We really, like Sister Dulce in Brazil used to say, to do to others what we want to do to us, to ourselves, is much more than simply giving things. It's about giving what we'd like to receive. You want to be accepted? Let's accept others. You want to be loved? Let's love others. And that begins in our thoughts. It doesn't begin on Facebook. It doesn't begin in a Twitter. It doesn't begin in any mail or phone call. It begins in our hearts. It begins in our minds. And then words and actions. Right, friends? What's going to happen tomorrow when we come back in this beautiful course that Emmanuel is giving to us? I told you, he is going deeper. He's going to talk about clairvoyance. No way. Yes way. He's going to talk about clairvoyance. You want to know what he talks about clairvoyance? Come back tomorrow. He says here, amongst other things, okay? We ponder about the need to study in order to interpret, in order that a particular interpretation does not lead us to the illogical. You want to know how clairvoyant people can be secure in their exercise of clairvoyance? Come back tomorrow, because Emmanuel is going to tell us, inspired on the Medium's book by Allan Kardec, he's going to lead us into new understanding. Meanwhile, what do we do? Be tolerant. Remember the feelings of the Christ. Christmas is not over. And I'm going to sing a little excerpt for you of that night that reminds us of the one that brought to us the example and the inspiration to forgive and forget, to love always, and to be tolerant, to be merciful. Holy night, Never will men see the sky so bright. We'll never see anything alike from now on. And this is the song Holy Night, in Portuguese, Noite Igual, by James Maroda. Our deceased Cacau sang this song once in a beautiful seminar by Haroldo Dutra Dias, and Holy Night reminds us of this holy proposal of the Christ consciousness. Shall we, friends? Thank you, sunshine. Thank you, friends. Big hug. And let us practice mercy in the next 24 hours and bring some more to the world. Thank you.